I'm Allison Jonjak, the Cranberry Outreach Specialist with the University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension. These videos are the on-demand recordings of UW Extension and the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association's virtual brown bag lunch series. These monthly sessions offer growers and researchers a way to share timely and relevant information. We hope you'll enjoy and continue to engage with us.
Hi, I'm Tom Lochner, the Executive Director of the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association. We're excited to be a partner with Extension to bring you research-backed resources, tools, and tips to keep Wisconsin marshes productive and profitable.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our June brown bag. We're moving right along through the growing season as blossoms are starting to open up. Want to go through a little bit of housekeeping. I have live transcriptions on for those who would like to see closed captions. Go ahead and turn on your live transcript. Want to thank the Growers Association and University of Wisconsin-Madison Extension for allowing us to host these brown bag sessions. And I feel like I'm missing something that I usually say. Oh yeah, when you have questions, you may either unmute yourself and ask a question, you may type a question right into the chat, or if you have a question that you'd want to ask anonymously, in the drop-down, choose to Allison, and I will read that question on your behalf, in my own voice. So all of these are options. I'm gonna offer Tom the opportunity to give us a little update from the world of the Growers Association.
Sure, thanks, Allison. We've been busy at the Growers Association, as I'm sure all of you have, trying to deal with all the challenges that come along every day. A couple of things to announce is that we've been working to fill our public education and communications position, and we've had a successful candidate that we have an offer out and accepted offer, and we'll be announcing that hire pretty soon so we can make sure our communications programs continue seamlessly. And at the station, we've been very, very busy getting ready for the summer meeting and a couple other events that we're going to be holding. But as Allison mentioned, the lab is being built out this next week. We're completing the water control structure replacement, and that should be wrapping up next week and the week after. And so things are moving along at the station. We're getting ready, as I said, for the summer meeting. We hope all the growers will come out. We're going to do some unique things this year for educational programming, doing mini clinics on the marsh rather than sitting in a tent talking to you. We're actually going to take you out into the field and you can talk to the researchers who are conducting projects on the marsh. So a lot of things, exciting things going on. Hope everybody's healthy and survived the storms earlier this week. And to those of you out there that it applies to, wish you a happy Father's Day. And I'll turn it back over to you, Allison.
Thank you. And yeah, as a reminder, as we've had all that weather going through, one of the things that makes me proudest of working in the agricultural world is how everybody pitches in and helps when there's cleanup to do and work to do. We've got equipment, we've got healthy bodies, and it's always good to be able to help out our neighbors. So today's topic, we're going to have Pam give us the consultant's observations and looking forward. We're going to have Leslie give us a pathogens and fungicides update, and we're going to have Jed give us a little mini tour of what it'll be like to have our mini clinics in the marsh, as Jed is going to join us live from our herbicide trial at the station. But first we'll have Pam, and I've got your slides here, so I will just keep on rolling and you will let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off where we left off last brown bag, and we were talking about all these different side shoots. So those were, the first couple were from early in the season, late May, early June, and then now we're progressing. And so now some of those multiple buds and those side shoots, we can see more clearly if they're going to be reproductive or vegetative. And we still don't know really if they're all going to set or what's going to happen, because we have that one main upright with, potentially 3 or 4 reproductive shoots on it. And then we have the vegetative. So really, we're going to keep watching and seeing and try to help the growers with their management decisions with that. And just to compare things from last year, this week in 2021, we were pretty much in full bloom on our hybrids. We probably already had our first fungicide applications done, thinking about our second. And then this year, same location in Toma, couple different varieties, but pretty much what we're seeing is just early bloom. I did a percent, I think it was like 8% was my highest on established beds. Some of the newer plantings are a little bit further along, but in general, we look like this from last year. And then I asked John, you can go ahead, Moss to send me his growing degree days, which he did right away. So you can kind of see numbers to put into perspective where we were last year, where we are this year, and we're about 263 days behind. And you can kind of see we're right in between 19 and 20 for this week in June. Blunt nose, we'll start with that right away. Last year we found them May 18th. This year we're about a week behind before we saw our first blunt nose. And using John's data again, it kind of fits degree days. So we, and like May 17th last year, we're about where we are this year. So we, unfortunately, we don't know that much about the life cycle, what initiates hatch and things like that. But this is pretty interesting to see the correlations.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
It was also, it seemed, I think, slower this year than last, from when the first one was seen until when we had enough out for me to put my trials out. I think in the past it's been pretty quick, and this time it was a little more protracted.
That's true. I guess we could go back and look at the growing degree days, and we did have those cooler, or yeah, okay, so when did you set your trials out? This week?
No, it was the Thursday, looking at my numbers, so it would have been the 9th.
Okay, so a little bit, it's not quite on this chart, but yeah, with the rain and the cooler days, that makes sense. So last took about 2 weeks for them all to hatch. And we saw those two different sizes of nymphs pretty much through the season. And this year it did seem to like drag out. So it was maybe like a longer hatch. And it took about 3 weeks before you had enough to, from the time I found the first one till you had enough to where you could do your trial. So yeah.
I'll take us back to
a couple. Yeah. Okay. And then everybody's curious about fanfare and how it went this first year. And it went really well, actually. So we had several growers that used it. Most just used it on certain beds and used other products in between. And it controlled cutworms, manworm looper, blunt nose, spark, and fireworm. We learned a lot because of markets and timing, the 120 days for the export EU fruit. We maybe put it on a little sooner than we would have recommended, like, oh, you're at threshold, just so that we could still use it within and be safe with those time frames. And we still had really good control. It seemed to have that staying power. And in talking to the other consultants, we think maybe that had something to do with the weather, and we weren't like rapidly growing like we were last year. So it seemed to stick around and work longer for us with that slow development. So we're really happy with fanfare so far. Hopefully now it kind of leaves the plant so that we don't have to worry about the residues later, but we will see how that goes. Sparg are, if you still have sparg in your beds, they're webbing, they're pupating, and they have just started to fly. So last year, Toma started flight June 7th, peaking the 21st. Cranberry was about a week later, peaking on the 29th. This year, Toma started this week, where Cranberry wasn't really, so on Tuesday, we didn't have a lot of flight, maybe like 1 or 2, and just a little bit more yesterday in Toma. same kind of thing. We just did the flight this week, which is the same as last year for Toma. It started right around this week for both years, and then it peaked around the 5th. So we'll see how it progresses. Frost, we had frost a few weeks ago, and this event, I don't know the exact day, but it's when you guys had to start watching at like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And I had a handful of growers that ended up with some of this frost damage. And it's probably because of the dew point and just that rapid fall, where, we go to these properties and like, oh, I started at 9, like, I don't understand. But it was probably something like that, a little bit of that dew point getting those tender uprights and hooks. So then let's talk about the recent weather. This is all in like the Toma area. There were tornadoes that went through. Fortunately, like the picture far on the right, the trees and all the damage was on the north side of the road, and the south side of the road is where my growers were. And so they didn't have all the building damage, trees down, but they certainly had some of the hail and wind and perhaps water damage. So there were some tips knocked over, and then there are some missing hooks in those areas. And then water. Everybody, the last like Monday and Wednesday, we got a lot of rain in that Toma area. The growers, we had 4 inches in those 2 days. So we're getting all the water off the beds, out of the ditches, cleaning the ditches, just trying to get rid of the moisture. Moss, I didn't do a slide, but moss is kind of a big, like there's a lot of moss this year. And I think it's because of all the moisture we've been having. This picture is also showing a sprinkler that wasn't turning during that same frost event. But I noticed we had the water in there too, because this is the day after Monday. So Tuesday's storms water there. So. All right, and now looking ahead, we're going to be starting to calculate percentages in bloom so we can time the fungicides, and then we'll be doing the percents out of bloom to work on the fruit worm spray. So here's just a little reminder of how to do that. If you're doing your own, you pick 10 random uprights in the bed. You don't want to go on the edges or in like weak areas. You kind of want to go to a place that represents the whole bed and still be random when you're selecting those 10 uprights. Obviously they have to be reproductive. You're going to try to be random and not go towards those blossoms. And then you count the number of pods, the number of flowers, do the math like it's shown down there, and that will give you your percentages. And then depending on the weather, we'll kind of predict what we think you're going to gain per day to help you time those 2 different fungicides. So that's it. And I think Leslie is going to talk about fungicides, so we can let her do that and then maybe answer some questions about using fungicides with that hail. Should we be worried about the pathogens entering in those injured, the tip or the hooks and things like that? So hopefully she can answer some of those questions for you.
Awesome. And I have not seen any questions come in on the chat yet, but thank you very much, Pam, for all of the very detailed update. And go ahead and ask questions in the chat. Ask questions by unmuting yourself or asking. Yes, and likewise, for me, if you have anything that you wondered, send an email, send a text, give me a call. Tom, did you have anything you wanted to close up with? Otherwise, we might be able to give people. Once we are done here, I'll go be sweeping the second sweep of my leaf hoppers after that trial application. So I know there's plenty of things to do in the afternoon. Any closing thoughts, Tom?
No, just hope everybody is doing well, and we wish everybody a safe and successful growing season this year, and have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.